Hi, everyone. This is Tim Nye with Catholic Charities San Bernardino Riverside counties, and really excited today. I'm with Carlos Garcia, council member Carlos Garcia of District 3 in the city of Upland. Councilmember Garcia, it's great to see you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and great meeting you too. Congratulations on the position.
Thank you. So I'm new to the area. We're having some fun talking about the areas in general, and we got a lot to talk about, a lot of fun things to talk about here today. And Councilmember, let's first start off with the leadership discussion we were having earlier about titles. How about that?
Sure. I'm going to my 5th year as a city councilman. I ran because I'm not that guy that's going to expect other people to carry the load. I want to make sure that I'm involved and not just complain about it. One of the things that for me it's also very important, because my background is in education also, is that I'm not that guy that's hung up on titles. As a matter of fact, you will never hear me introduce myself as a councilman. If you find out, then so be it. But you will never hear me say, hey, I'm Councilman Garcia, so-and-so. I don't believe in that. I mean, I think we're all created equal, and that's the way we should treat people, exactly the same way. We obviously have leadership roles and different things, but I treat the person at the bottom of the hill the same way I treat the person at the top. There's no difference.
I love that. And so, I always say, you shouldn't really have a title if you need one.
Right.
Is how I kind of look at it. And it's so interesting. This morning when I was getting ready to come over here and meet with you, I was thinking about the leaders in my life, because we have good leaders and we have bad leaders. And I feel like I've learned more from the leaders that were the ones that were doing the damage.
Isn't that funny how that works out, right?
Yeah.
So you had great examples of what not to do.
What not to do.
So they turned out to be actually good leaders because you're learning from the bad, right?
Yeah. I don't think that'd be a really good card to give them. Thank you for all the things you taught me not to do, sort of leadership style. But on leadership, what I noticed in your background, before we go there, let's step a little bit deeper. We were talking earlier about Nicaragua and your family and such. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. I came here as a kid, about 7 years old. I lived through Nicaraguan War back in the late 70s. When war broke out, we actually lived through the war. And when I say that is bullets flying over us sleeping on the floor. I mean, there is so many miracles that I can tell you. I'm sitting here because of the grace of God. If I ever said that there is no God, I would be lying, because I wouldn't be sitting here without his grace and protection. When my grandmother, my sister, and I left, my parents sent us first. They were trying to shoot down our plane, so you can hear the bullets ricocheting. When we were there sleeping on the floors, there would be military choppers and stuff. I could tell you that the first time I ever heard a bomb, I don't know how I got from the outside inside quickly. Another miracle was there was a helicopter that dropped the bomb, but it blew up in midair. Mm-hmm. So all we heard was the shrapnel. So again, it's just those miracles. And I will tell you that a year later is when my parents were finally able to get out for a day, because my mom was handicapped and my dad worked for the government back then. And the agreement was you drop her off at the airport, you can come right back. Well, my dad already knew exactly what was going to happen. So a day later, as soon as they arrived, my dad actually asked for political asylum, go through the process. And sure enough, a day after he got here, they gathered all of his colleagues and friends and shot everybody in the plaza.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
So again, another miracle, And what I learned also was that when we came here, communism freezes everything. We have nothing. It's basically you come in with the shirts on your back and that's about it. And so what we found was that there was a lot of folks that we met when we got here that helped us. People we didn't know for no reason at all. No agenda, nothing. I'll never forget Father Dennis. And I can't remember exactly what the church he came from, but as a kid, this guy was probably about 6. He looked like a giant to me. But it was strange because you saw him, and it's almost like you saw those pictures of Jesus. The beard, the long hands, and all of that. And it was just something that stuck with me. And growing up in all of this, I think one of the key takeaways from that drives me to this day is strangers took the time to help me. And that's been my passion since I was that small, is help others. Everything that I do in life, business, teaching, talking to kids, talking to adults, I always encourage them. You're going to get to the top. I say, and I don't have a doubt with that. But the reality is your responsibility is when you get to the top, to make sure that you help everybody that came behind you,
That's right.
to make sure that they get to the top and never forget where you start. Because let's face it, reality is a lot of folks forget.
Mm.
You get to the top, you get a title, you may start making all this money, and you forget the human aspect of it.
Right.
You know, that somebody actually took the time to help you too.
Yeah. So many things coming up. What I'll say is, personally on a personal level, just understanding, when I was at the Armed Services YMCA, my prior organization, I loved it because almost 3 to 4 days a week, I was doing the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem, because I am a patriot as well at heart, a Marine Corps veteran, proud veteran. And then I get to Catholic Charities, and what I will say I love about that is I get a chance to be in prayer and be around people of thought and prayer and that focus. So when I hear you talking, so often in society we say things like, we have this discussion of the unhoused versus homeless, immigrant versus our neighbor on our doorstep, and there's lots of controversy. And at the end of the day, when we're looking at it, it's really about our brothers and sisters. And that's what I love to hear. And you're just one community. And regardless of title, am I above a person who's sleeping in their car? Am I below the person who drives, some SL 500 or something of this nature? So it's really interesting how we place ourselves as opposed to just seeing people as our equals and being what you and I would call servant leaders in our community, for sure. So you're on this journey, and we were talking earlier about that you have a lot of compassion for veterans as well.
Yeah, and part of being an immigrant, right? It's also, and thank you for your service, by the way. It's to me, we have these gifts. We're able, you and I, to sit here because of the sacrifice you and your fellow brothers and sisters have done. And then to me, that's very important. In my eyes, in a perfect situation, there's no veteran that should come back from war, regardless of what war they were in. They are sleeping on the streets. They don't have the services or the needs that they need to help them get better. It's injustice, and I think that needs to be fixed. I've been part of also organizations that try to help the veterans, but the sad part of it is you have good and you have those that are just doing their own thing on there. And I think until we start dialing in and holding those folks accountable, I've been part of roundtables with Congress as well too, Congresswoman, and those are the things that I said. Unless you have somebody holding, or a task force holding those folks accountable that actually helps the vets, you're never going to see things done correct.
And much like being a council member, first off, like we'll go there in a second, but much like being a council member, sometimes when people say, thank you for your service to a veteran, they may say something like, well, I'm just like everybody else sort of scenario. And what I will say is today I'm even in pain, some lower back pain from my service, proudly in First Force Reconnaissance, in the Marine Corps. And the VA has been extremely helpful, unbelievable. So I think part of what we experience in our communities, Upland and other communities in the area of the Inland Empire, is sometimes a lack of communication, a lack of strategy, some working together. And I'd love to see a little bit more of that.
No, absolutely. I think, together we all win. That's the bottom line. And I think for me, when I do say thank you to a veteran, it's coming from a place of where I'm beyond grateful that this country, thanks to you guys, has allowed me the opportunity to thrive with my family and all of that. So it's something that I also taught my son very little. It's just, this is just something you just say to say. This is something that you have to mean and be grateful for. And that to me is very valuable to say, just a simple thank you. When you can do something above and beyond that, even better. But it starts with the thank you and then build it from there as well too.
Let's just bring it back to you for a second. So you could have, honestly, in what you described to us, your pathway, and there's a lot of kids out there that can get derailed so easy. And they're on their education, they're on their path, and they can get derailed so easy, be it social media or other negative influences. Yet today you're a council member of District 3, so you must have some proud family members.
I do. Unfortunately, my parents and my sister, they passed away. So I'm kind of like the lone wolf of the family standing, but my wife is very proud. My in-laws are very proud. And I do it also as an example for my son. I want him to learn that it takes a lot of work, hard work ethics and things to get ahead. He's just 18. He's 18. He's going to college playing football, and he wants to be into law enforcement. So he's talked about law enforcement since he was 4. one of the things that I've always taught him also is to be himself. So I'll give you an example. When I used to do chamber meetings, like breakfast or the lunches or whatever, I would drag him along with me when he was 5. And, then I found out later, he says, yeah, I only used to go with you because of the food, right? So that was the carrot on there. But it taught him, I mean, he used to go, I would introduce him, taught him to shake hands, look at somebody in the eye. I would have him do my commercial for Thursday. He would butcher it, but it would got him that.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
and from that, it's been in junior high. I remember his teachers saying, hey, does your son hang around old people? I'm like, what do you mean old people? I'm an old person, right? But he says he's the only kid that we say good morning. He looks us in the eye, shakes our hand, and I've seen that growth where he's very laser focused on helping the community through law enforcement, but also very he can hold his own in a conversation, which is kind of really cool to see from where he was at to where he's at now.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So, Catholic Charities offers a very basically 5 core programs. Hunger relief is one of them, and hunger relief is really the gateway. Hunger doesn't discriminate when people are fearful. So we have a new initiative, Matthew's Harvest. And for the record, Catholic Charities serves all, not just Catholic folks. So we're out in the communities. Matthew's Harvest is a box. It's basically 4 meals for a family of 4 with a QR code on there that invites folks into our programs and services. One of which we're really excited about is our new career advisory services. And I think you get behind that too because you're a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been part of LA County Office of Education. I work with EDD. I've worked a lot with the homeless, folks out of jail, single moms. And my goal was basically teaching them technical skills, right? Teaching them how are they going to survive in the real world out there. It's a lot of the stuff that you really don't hear on the media. It's everything is doom and gloom, but these positive stories that people want to be independent, want to take care of themselves was a huge eye opener for me. And we talked a little bit earlier about purpose. So I always ask, I never bring up God or anything in an environment. It always just happens naturally. And it's those moments where I just say, oh, now I know why I'm here. I know what my purpose is. And it was basically just to get folks in a different pathway that they don't have to continue down the same road. There's options. And that's, I think for our youth, the same way, you always have options. It's not just a one shot or whatever. It's you have to teach kids that you have option A, B, and C. Don't get narrowed down into just one option, then you're stuck here. Create those opportunities.
I love that. So many things are coming up. So my son is a U.S. Navy pilot, and I told him when he went on deployment, there's no atheist in a fighting hole. And what's interesting about that metaphor is that all of us at some point in our life, including your story, which by the way, that's just a remarkable story that you shared. We all have our own fighting hole, whether that's it's physically happening to us, it's in our heads, or whatever the case may be. And to your point, we often think about success as a straight line.
Right.
We're not thinking of all the ups and downs along the way. And so what would you say, given your experience and your background, what would you say to someone struggling today? What guidance or advice would you give them to reach down and make a difference for themselves?
I think the key things that as human beings, I think we have a hard time with, I could tell you I struggle with that too, is asking for help. That's the initial thing. Once you get past that hump and really take a look at it, find that person or find those friends that are actually looking forward to building their lives, building their careers. That's also very important. And, unfortunately, not all households have a mom and dad. We have single moms working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet and all that. But pay attention to that because the moral of that story is that your mom's working her tail off to make a better life for you. And in return, that's your example. That's leading by example. You have to do the same thing, not only to help your own family, but in the future, your family as well, too.
I love that you said that. I was hoping you would say that because even my own personal struggles, I literally advise people, reach out for help. We're here. Catholic Charities is here. And even personally, I'm struggling at times and I said, wait a second, I need to maybe ask for some support, which is like I'm going to brag about it. My most recent experience with the VA was just outstanding. That's awesome. I'm so happy with what they did for me so effectively and so quickly. But again, that's where Catholic Charities comes in. And also for folks watching, I think it's so important that we start to ask ourselves, how can we individually be a force for good in the form of volunteering, in the form of teaching our skills and talents to others, or just being a positive impact? And I was thinking about the ripple effect when you drop a rock in water, it creates all these ripples along, right? And so if you're going to be negative and gossip or pay attention to negative stories or whatever the case may be, or just get stuck in reels in your phone, then that's sort of spreading those negative droplets, especially when you're sharing it. And so I know it's not easy all the time, but to wake up every single day and when you drop that rock, it's spreading good positive energy out there, which I think you're all about as well.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, I'm sitting right next to someone too, right? So
Yeah.
the work that you guys have done and continue to do and all of these new programs and stuff that you have in place, it's what really communities really need to know about,
Mhm.
and unfortunately there's a lot of these great opportunities that a lot of folks don't know about too, and I think it's also another reason why I love the opportunity to connect with you is how do we get the word out for folks as well too.
Well, let's go there for a second because I'm excited. I need to share. Let's make this a confession or bust ourselves with our viewers. I need to share that historically, Catholic Charities was getting a lot of phone calls. Maybe we have a broad name. There's 92 parishes here in the Inland Empire, and there's many churches in Upland alone. Many fantastic churches. I have to give a shout out to Life Bible Fellowship, who helps support our Upland office. Fantastic church and parish doing a lot of great work out there. But what I will say is, technology-wise, we were getting so many phone calls that our response was to literally not answer the phone. That we're going to work with walk-ins because we were overwhelmed by the significant demand. You're a technology expert as well. And so we are pivoting everyone to launch AI. And that'll be on Monday. I'm really excited to share that. So AI will start answering those phone calls and we're going to embrace technology. I know some people are afraid of it,
Right.
right? We're going to embrace technology in a way that starts to serve our community at a higher level. And that'll include these late 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. calls coming in. It'll transfer those folks to 988 that are in trouble at a time when they need it the most. So excited about that. What gets you going on technology?
For a long time, I've joked that I was kind of born a nerd at 13. My introduction to computers as an Apple. As a matter of fact,
Being a nerd is cool now.
oh, dude,
Yeah.
totally. I own the title. I own the title. But
That's the title we want.
yeah, exactly. So I went to Catholic school too, and we got 6 pods of the original Apple IIe's, and I remember like nobody wanted to volunteer, like nobody knew this thing or whatever. I'm like, hey man, I'll volunteer. It got me an hour out of class, and I was like golden, but I'd never looked back. It's now with the whole AI thing on there. I mean, for the last couple of years as it's been out, it just lit a new fire into something new, something that I've been learning, something that I can engage with, and it's just phenomenal. The potential is just limitless.
It is limitless. I will say though, I'm not going to date myself, but I'm getting to that age where I'm relying on other people. I'm like, hey, I'm not as nerdy as I'd like to be. So are there other people that can help me figure out how to do this little thing over here? So it's a little advanced. I know it's intimidating. My dad is 83 years old and he's using Dragon Speak.
Nice.
And he had a stroke, so he can't really use the keyboard as much, but he's got Dragon Speak. He's got all these phenomenal things. And I know for folks that want to get involved in the workforce, technology is a great way to just embrace that and get involved. And we want to be there ready to assist folks as well. So what are some of the challenges or things as a council member that keep you up at night?
I think it's also making sure that my community is taken care of.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, my top priority is public safety. It's always been public safety, and also trying to bring in and uniting our community. I worry a lot too about families that are not aware of resources that are out there. Um, Families should not be sleeping in cars. Kids should not be homeless going to school. They should have places where they can, even if it's a small studio room, whatever, a roof over their heads. And I speak this from experience, right? Not that I was, ever homeless, but going through the struggle and seeing some of that, no kid should ever go through that, let
I
alone
agree.
family.
Especially, when I look at these, we have some amazing community colleges in the area. And I know that there's students that are literally sleeping in their cars,
Right.
that are attending school. You got to respect that. they're coming from these extreme environments, yet they're still attending. And some of the community colleges have set up food pantries as well with volunteers to help support those students. But we can never do enough to make sure they're okay and make it to the next level of their success or their career.
And that's a perfect example of those students, the young generation that's not going to give up. Doesn't mean if I'm sleeping in my car, we talked about the so what factor, right?
Right.
So your environment can create all of these obstacles, but so what? You're overcoming each one. The same thing I always say. So people always tell me too, like, why don't you talk about your past more, about the war and all this? So what? It happened. I don't want to keep bringing that up because it's not me. That's not who I am. It built me to who I am, and I'm very grateful for that as well too. But it's again, it comes down to like, so what? We move on.
Yeah, I love that. So it's really what you're really saying is let's not live in the past and worship our pains. Let's live in the moment and really embrace the opportunities that are around us now. And I think if we do that as a community, Upland and the Inland Empire working especially together, we can really elevate the community. Maybe I'm a dreamer. I know there's other leaders and folks out there who've said things like, let's make take a bite out of hunger, or let's solve some homeless issues or unhoused issues and all these things. But I still believe you should never give up.
Absolutely.
We can keep moving forward. And even if it's that starfish story where we do one starfish at a time, it still made a difference for someone.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic. I really appreciate what you've shared. We didn't really cover it, but do you have any mentors or heroes that helped you along the way?
My parents were always very, they were the typical strict parents. It's one of those where I grew up with, if I got in trouble, first I got it from my mom and wait till your dad gets home, right? That was round two. But I will tell you, as a kid growing up, you're like, man, like you're constantly complaining because of that. And as you get to become an adult, you realize, if it wasn't for that, I would be in a different place. I would be a different person, and I think that's a lot of parents are still kind of doing that as well too. But it's that accountability that we grew up and we are the way we are. Thanks to that, we don't see it, and the kids that are watching, whatever, is exactly, you're not ever going to see it. You're going to complain, why are they hassling me and all that? But trust me, there's a method to the madness that you're going to be sitting here in one of our chairs sooner or later and making that same difference, for somebody else.
We talked a lot about technology today, and I'm going to be careful how I say this. What I will say is it's very common to say that kids and adults are on our phones scrolling a lot. And there's something really beautiful about learning something or being creative or going out to play. And what I've noticed is we tend to get stuck on this word anxiety. I feel anxious. I feel anxiety. And sometimes when you ask people, and I'm certainly where I'm careful, is I certainly don't mean to say that anyone who's been diagnosed with anxiety, it's real. It's a real thing. I want to acknowledge that. But it's becoming a common word in society. And what you and I talked about a lot today is resiliency. I'd love for resiliency to be the word of choice.
And maybe we need to start that starting from this podcast.
We're going to be resilient. Everyone embrace being resilient. So
that's our new hashtag, by the way. So let's brand that out.
Yeah, that's our new hashtag.
Yeah.
Well, we're here today, everyone, with Council Member District 3, City of Upland, Carlos Garcia. Carlos, thank you. You can call him Council Member. He's going to say Carlos. Carlos,
right.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate
being with us today.
Thank you.
And wonderful time spending with you and learning more about you as well.
Same here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Pound that subscribe button. Like, share, and subscribe. Get the word out about Catholic Cherries, community and focus. We're spreading the word. We're going to unite as a community in the City of Upland and all over the Inland Empire to make positive change. Thank you.